All right, in this video, I'm going to walk through the other part of this. So in the first video, I walked through the map and how to use the grid with this map in Google Drawings. Just a reminder in case you didn't catch it at the end there, if you'd rather, work with this like hands-on on a tabletop, excuse me, I've got a different version of this, like a black and white one if you'd like, or you can print off this one. Keep in mind the size, it should be like about 4 printer pages in size. So big enough to show some detail. All right, so this is the background of this, and this document I recommend you do it first because it'll guide you through your design process. So read carefully through here. In designing your sustainable city, there are certain things you need to keep in mind. So like right here, these are things that as I look at it, I'm really thinking about. Excuse me again. So are you showing your understanding of environmental science and what it means to live sustainably through your design of your city? Have you really thought it out? Can you justify your decisions that you made? Is it realistic? That said, I do like outside the box thinking, and I hope to see some of that. Is it creative? Is it well organized? Is it neat? Hopefully using a computer, most of these should be pretty neat as it goes. All right, so here's some assumptions. Just look at that. One thing I mentioned in the other video, but was good to mention here, is the 3 squares, like the sides of 3 squares, would equal 1 kilometer. And so a 3x3 grid on here, like a 3x3 box, would be 1 square kilometer. Now that's important because a lot of the areas requirements are listed as having an area requirement, and so you need to meet those requirements. Okay. In the other video, we looked at this. We didn't go into much detail about what these different things meant, which is why I've included this sort of key to those different things here. Now, these things are labeled here because you don't need to put them in your key. They are there to guide you in designing your city so that you know the different ecosystems present in the landscape. So keep in mind these things are not to scale, right? Like these little tufts of grass are not to scale. These, representations of oils, these towers, those are not to scale. These trees are not to scale. This represents an entire forest, and so this is saying there are lots of trees here, and these are lots of deciduous trees, lots of evergreen trees, etc. There are lots of fish here, so it just represents those different things. Things that you might not know: LNG is liquid natural gas, just to remind you. The E's with circles around them, those are endangered or threatened species. If you see something that doesn't have a label, just look for it somewhere else on the map and you're going to see a label for it somewhere. All right. These should look familiar if you watched the other video. These are required areas, and I've given you the about the size of each, what area needs to be represented with these different things on the map. It's in the other video. You can watch that. That's fine. And there's a key. You do need to have a key or a legend on your map too. Okay, so now to get to the actual planning guide. I strongly encourage you to walk through this document before you start putting your map together. This will help outline help you to think through the placement of your different components. So first off, you need to define what are your guiding principles, guiding philosophies for your city. It's you're in charge of the whole layout, and so what do you want it to represent? What do you want it to communicate? So for example, here you might have reliance on solar energy as one of your components, and this is going to guide how you do a lot of different things in your city. And so here you would type in reliance on solar energy, and then you could put your city together to reflect that. There are other things, we've talked about several throughout the year. So just what are your most important guiding philosophies or ideas, components in your land use plan? You're going to walk through this. I think a lot of this is pretty straightforward. You're going to type and fill these things in. You each have your own copy, so you can do this. Down here, I'll just touch on a few of these. For power plants, what kind of power generation are you going to have? How many square kilometers are you going to need to provide what you need for your city of 125,000. In case you missed it, population is 125,000. It's a little bigger than Yakima. So you might want to look that up. Like, okay, well, for a city of 100,000, how many square kilometers of solar arrays do I need? And then multiply that by 1.25 because it's 25% more than 100,000, and you get a ballpark of how much you would need for that. Yeah, so thinking about a lot of different things here. Anyway, this document here is to guide you through the different things that you need to have on your map, things that you need to show in your city. I think a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory. Don't forget that you need to include these things in your key at the bottom of the map. Okay, I do want to mention right here about roads. You do not need to show every single road in your city, but you do need to show like the main corridors, like the transportation corridors. So if you have like freeways, you would definitely need to show those on your map. If you have major rail lines, yeah, I'd expect those to be on there as well. You could opt to show other things like maybe downtown streets, like the major ones if you want. It's a possibility. You have some other options too. But you can, terraform the landscape within reason if you choose to also. Let's see, what else we have? Schools, like hospitals, medical facilities. Then we have a lot of recreational areas to think about. National monuments. Maybe you want to have a monument to something on your map or in your city. You're free to do that kind of thing. And yeah, and then your water supply. So that's it for the required stuff. Those like 1 through 25, and I think I say that up here, 1 through 25, those are required to be on your map. And so I'd expect to see those, like a label for those things in your key at the bottom as well. And I said this in the other video, like zoom in, that map is huge. And so you should zoom in when you're working with that key. Your text, I don't expect it to be like, it should be size appropriate. That's an 18-inch by 24-inch picture there. So keep that in mind. All right, here are some other questions, things for you to think about. Now, you're free to add other things. Maybe you want an amusement park, for example, in your city. And you know what? Knock yourself out, put an amusement park in. Maybe you want to have other points of interest. Maybe, there's a famous piece of artwork that's sculpted into a hillside. I don't know. You can do that kind of stuff, and you can add that to your city to add some interest if you like. I didn't mention dams or reservoirs. You're free to do that. But so it's up to you. Maybe you want to add a pier, like into the water. As meeting areas have docks, you can do that. It's not explicitly required. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the different components that are needed in your sustainable city. Excuse me. If you want to take this like in an outside the box direction, we met online earlier today to talk about some ideas, and one idea that came out was like, could I build this in SimCity? And I don't see why you couldn't. It'd be fine. Other things, like there's a game called Cities Skylines. You can terraform in there, and you could recreate this map, I think, pretty well in that game, and then you could build the whole thing and, use something like that. People, if you want to build models, print this out and build a model of it. If you want to like trace the map onto some paper and then work with it three-dimensionally, have some fun with it, yeah, that's totally okay. So yeah, think outside the box, have fun with it. Show me what you've learned from this year of environmental science and put it into creating this sustainable city. If you have questions, please let me know. Please email me, contact me sooner rather than later. We've got a due date in about 10 days, so end of next week, May 29th. We're looking at a due date for that. And yeah, just keep me in the loop. And good luck. Have fun.